Hi, welcome to We Go Again, a podcast where we dive into the real stories behind business ambition, setbacks, and success. This is where founders, creators, and game changers share the lessons they've learned, the challenges they've faced, and what it really takes to keep building when things don't go to plan. Every episode is about growth, resilience, and the mindset to keep moving forward, because no matter what happens, we go again. So, whether you're building a business, chasing a goal, rebuilding after failure, or just looking for inspiration to take your next step, you're in the right place. Today's guest is someone I've known for a long time, and someone who has built an incredible brand through her creativity, consistency, and staying true to herself. Myer, better known to most as Coco Larkin Cooks, started out creating recipe and food content from her kitchen, and has since grown a hugely engaged audience of over 1.7 million followers on Instagram, nearly 1 million on TikTok, plus a thriving Substack community. She's turned her passion for food into a powerhouse personal brand, and now she's taking things even further with her very first cookbook set to release later in 2026. We talked about content creation, building a loyal audience, the desire to make lots of money, and why women don't talk about ambition enough. We also touched on dealing with trolls, famous followers, motherhood, and what it really takes to grow in today's digital world. It was a great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. We go again.
I'm here with Corre, also known as Coco Larkin Cooks, who's taken the internet by storm, probably most known on Instagram, where she has nearly 2 million followers, but also a insane amount of followers on TikTok as well. Corre, welcome. It's lovely to have you here. Just a bit of a backstory, but I also know Corre anyway, because we used to work together years ago in London when we were both fully entrenched in the world of recruitment and the blood, sweat and tears that went into that. But yeah, it's amazing to have you here. Thank you for joining me and for being here to chat.
Thanks, Frankie. I'm so excited. I know. I was just thinking this morning how long we've known each other, and it's probably 20 years.
We were so young and naive.
Oh, it was great. The best of days and the worst of days. It was, I would never trade it for anything.
I mean, I was trying to think about what I spent my money on back then, and it was basically black cabs and booze. That's pretty much all I have to show for it.
The nights out that we remember are insanity. I'm so happy there was no phone recording devices back then.
Obviously, I've been following you as a friend for years because you left London and moved back home. I kind of feel like you were always into cooking, right? You've always enjoyed cooking. But to see you kind of go from starting to cook at home and putting some content out there to being a creator that is being shared by the likes of Stanley Tucci the other day, which is pretty iconic. And I see like Sarah Jessica Parker commenting on your posts, and I'm like, what the hell, Sarah Jessica Parker, that's huge. And it's like, it's not like you've come from nowhere and blown up out of nowhere. Like you've put the work in, but I don't know anyone else that has managed to achieve such incredible things in what is quite a short space of time. I mean, how does that kind of make you feel? Like, how did we get here?
I think it was like, if I look back, you could see the steps were there. So like, do you remember when I had my Corre Marie days where I was, flipping things on Instagram for that, like I would go estate sale shopping. And that was kind of born out of the fact that I'd been in my job. I'd owned my company for so long. It's such a dry kind of industry. There's not a lot of creativity in it. It's armor, and you're selling armored glass to the military. And there really isn't anything. There's no females. There's no, it's not a lot of fun. And I remember I was like telling Matt, my husband, I was like, I need some sort of creative outlet. I'm starting to feel resentful of my job, but unfulfilled. So I've always loved thrifting, and I did at the time dabble, think should I do thrifting or cooking? And I was like, I'm going to do thrifting. So I would go to estate sales and thrift stores and junk shops and places like that. And then I would find things and I'd flip them on my Instagram stories. And I think the years I spent doing that, unbeknownst to me, I became very comfortable, what you would say, in front of the camera. So I would be selling the pieces to my followers and things would sell out the same day. I don't think anything's ever an overnight, but I didn't know it at the time. That was kind of training me to make content. I got very comfortable speaking to the camera. And then when I started cooking, and again, that was like my friends were like, can you just find one place where you're going to put all your cooking? And I was like, okay, I'll put him on TikTok. Never having been on TikTok in my life. I didn't even have the app. And I was just like, that's where I'm going to do it. I don't know why that made sense to me. When the cooking took off, I couldn't really continue on with my thrifting, but I still do it for fun. But I think it was, whether we saw it or not, like not overnight. I had those years of experience of, talking to people and selling things. And I mean, what you're doing is you're essentially selling a recipe. Back then I was selling a bowl. And then I was on TikTok for almost 2 years before I went to Instagram, because I thought that Instagram at that time was perfectly curated, the perfect lighting, everyone was, made up. And I remember thinking there's no way I could go on Instagram. Like that is, no one's going to get me. No one's going to like me over there. And so I just stayed on TikTok. And then when those rumblings were starting about TikTok closing, I was like, ooh, I better get over on Instagram. So I did Instagram and YouTube. Keeping in mind, by that point, I now have 2 years of content almost saved up. Instagram just took off like crazy. And I think it was also coming at that time where there was like maybe a bit of anti-celebrity pushback or a bit of pushback against that perfect aesthetic. And because my content is really, it's not unedited, but it's, it's pretty rough and it's very real. Me cooking in my kitchen as I would cook if I wasn't filming. I think it just resonated. And so off it went.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really nice things about what you do is it's not like, obviously what you're making is amazing and it looks great, and you're not making baked beans on toast, right? You're making quite intricate dishes sometimes, but it's not polished like it would be if it was served up by a chef in a restaurant. And I think that's really nice because people actually look at that and go, well, I'm going to save that and I could actually cook that myself. And I think you're very relatable. You're very honest about what you use, the equipment you use, the ingredients. And I think people relate to that because it feels achievable. And there's a lot of glossy bullshit on a lot of the apps. And I think you don't want to feel like you're being sold to all the time, and you want to feel like, that could be my mate and my mate could just be cooking for me. It just happens to be on a camera, if you know what I mean. And I think that comes across from your work.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of feedback I get is like, I feel like you're my friend and we're in the kitchen cooking together. And yeah. I love that. That is the biggest compliment because it reminds me of the cooking shows of the old where like I learned to cook by honestly being hungover on my couch in London, watching like the Rick Steins, the James Martins, the Nigellas. And I would sit there like cringing on a pillow for hours on a Saturday or Sunday after one of our benders. It would lull me. It would relax me. I could see the dishes. They were a handful of ingredients. I felt like I could do it too. I make the kind of content that I want to watch. So that's why there's no ASMR. There's no aggressive chopping. Cooking has always been a place where like it's where I come to relax. And so that's the kind of content I make, the kind of content I want to watch. I don't like the anxiety of the competition shows or just the super aggressive shot to shot to shot to shot. Like I want to actually like watch, relax, learn how to make the dish.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what comes across. And I think that's why we on nearly 2 million on Insta, nearly 700,000 on TikTok.
Yeah, I think somewhere around there. And then but the biggest, like I got the silver play button for YouTube for 100,000. And I was like, my kids, they opened it like you would have thought I was Mr. Beast, which I'm very proud of. But like compared to the other platforms, it's by far the smallest amount. And really, they're like, so like, what's next? 500 million? Yes.
Wow. Do they actually send you something?
Oh yeah. My that silver thing, that's it. They sent.
Wow.
I was like, why don't the other platforms do it? I feel like you feel so special.
That is so cool. That's like getting a platinum disc when you release when you sell like, I don't know, 100,000 records or whatever you do when you're a singer.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. Everyone needs to follow suit.
Let's talk a little bit about your kind of background, because I do think it's really relevant for what makes a person kind of tick in terms of what makes them get up and go every day, right? You know, talk to us a little bit about your background, your growing up, and the kind of the life that's led you to this point, because that is, to me, I'm really interested in just what makes people go again. Like, why get up every day and do this? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it because you just want to create a really lovely life for your family? Or is it all of those things? So yeah, talk to us a little bit about that.
So I'm very motivated by success and winning. I think this is the background I grew up in. I played sports my whole life, competitive sports. I was a 4-year Division I athlete in college. I have always been motivated by winning. And I don't necessarily have to be the best, but I think I have to be the best I can be. I'm very hard on myself. And I don't know if you're born this way or if it's just all those years of competitive sports where that's the praise you got as a child. You know, for a long time, my identity was wrapped up in my sports. When I graduated college, I didn't know who I was because every piece of praise and everything had always been wrapped up in sports. So when I finished, I really was like, who am I? I mean, I needed therapy. So what I did was I replaced sports with jobs and works, and I worked in, you remember our environment, it was like a boiler room. I think what I did was I found myself in other situations and jobs where it was competitive and I could win. When I moved back and then started my business, that kind of ended because the sales cycle went from maybe like we could get a job and fill a job and make a deal in a day. My last job, it could take 3 years, 4 years, you know, by the time you quoted something to it came to fruition and went into production. And that was not something that I think fit my personality, but you just learn to adapt. But then it became like, okay, I went from this environment where someone is monitoring my KPIs, telling me what to do, what targets I have to hit. I then started that recruitment company in London, and I think I kind of mimicked it, but having to then be like, okay, what's going to get you up in the morning? It's me. It's just my wanting to win, wanting to succeed, because now no one is tracking you. No one's telling you good job on the back. It has to all come from you. I'd always known I would own my own business. So that was a natural one for me. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs on all sides of the family. I was happy to do that. But yeah, that first one in London, that was a big learning experience. I mean, that I chalked that up as a big failure. And at the time, I really struggled with that failure. I know now there really is no success. So I couldn't have done anything I did after that without that learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, there is something, once you've recovered from the heartbreak of a failure like that, if you call it a failure, once you recover and realize that actually it's not been the end of your world, you can do something again, you can start another business, you can get another job, you can do whatever you want. I think it's quite empowering. But in that moment, it's absolutely horrific. And it probably is something that you never forget because it allows you to not fall into the same traps. I mean, I think we probably still do to some extent, but coming to terms with that level of failure of something that means a lot to you is pretty hard. I mean, you were always very successful. So you were kind of that benchmark when we worked together. I remember coming in and seeing how much money could be made in this job, and I literally had no money, and I was like existing on fumes in London, and seeing all of these people like you being really, really successful and thinking, God, yeah, I want a piece of that. And it's really addictive because when you see people living that life, having money, it definitely fueled me, and it stayed with me forever because I still look at that as money's really important. And I think it's good to not be ashamed to say that. A lot of people shy away from that, but I think it's really, really empowering actually if you acknowledge, do you know what? I would quite like to be earning a really good standard of living and be financially stable and to not be embarrassed by that. And I think recruitment certainly taught me that living was available and no one was embarrassed by it.
Do you remember? That was the whole point. Like that was celebrated. I've never been ashamed of making money. I've never been ashamed of saying I enjoy making money and I want to make money. I don't know why there's any shame in it. I remember even, 20 years ago, it was definitely more different back in the UK versus the States for women to want to say like, yes, I want to make a lot of money. That wasn't something that was maybe the narrative. I think maybe just being the American in the room, like I just didn't fit in naturally. So Corre could be like, whatever, because she's not one of us anyway. Maybe that's just how the Americans are, the loud Americans. Over there, that personality suited that job to be very successful. So I do believe that it's important that women, if they want to and if they need to, that you're encouraged to go have a career, whether you're doing it because you want to do it and you just want something for yourself, or because you actually do need to contribute to the household financially. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I want to be successful.
It's really nice to be unapologetic about that. I'm the same. I've obviously had quite a catastrophic failure of my own with my business closing down, but I put 24/7 into that. My body, mind, soul, heart, everything went into it because I believed in it so much and I wanted it to be a success. I'm really proud. I'm proud of that ambition, and I'm proud of the fact that I worked as hard as I worked and I believed in it, and it hasn't put me off doing something in the future. I think that's the most powerful thing. It's not the failure, it's actually the fact that now, and I mean, I cried a lot, but now that I've kind of recovered, I'm like, right, okay, didn't work, but I'm still just as ambitious and I still want to do something and I still want to stand for something in my own life. And I just need to figure out what that's going to be. Certainly, I think you kind of led the way in empowering women at our old company, because we were all quite young, we were all quite impressionable, but we were all there to work hard and make money. And you were just very open about that. Yeah, it was tough, wasn't it? It was, I definitely think I had PTSD when I left that company. That was certainly wouldn't be allowed now. That's all I'm saying.
I view it as like the reason why we are all still in contact. And I come to London once a year. Every year, we all get together. All of us who used to work together. I think that's pretty rare, that everyone.
It's a trauma bond.
It is. We're trauma bonded. We are absolutely trauma bonded. But, I wouldn't do anything different.
Me too. I think we're all crazy enough to do it again. So let's chat a bit more about the content, because obviously you've gone from being highly successful working in London to moving home, becoming highly successful as an entrepreneur and selling your business. That's a lot of people's aim, is to get their business to a point where they can sell and get out. You've done that, and now you're full-time content creator. You've got a book coming out this year. Like, just take a minute to celebrate your success, because you do consistently make things work. You're also a mum. You've got 2 young children. Let's kind of talk about how you manage that all now, and how you've lent into being a content creator and how that's kind of taken over your life. Because I know that you still do a lot of it yourself. You're not surrounded by a massive team. How do you make all of that work?
When I sold the business 3 years ago, I had thought that I was going to stay on until they flipped it again. And so I was like, okay, I'm making the cooking content, but it's really for fun. I'm not posting every day, but I'm posting a lot. I'm not putting 100% into it because it's, again, not my full-time job. When it became clear that I was going to be kept on for like 10 hours a week, I was like, ooh, like that is not something that I can fund my life. The money I made selling my company went to investments and things, and that couldn't be like my salary. I was like, okay, like it's time to go knee deep into content and see if I can do this. I started a newsletter because everyone's like, where are your recipes? And I had no intention of doing a newsletter. Substack newsletter. I went full in on content, went in, started Instagram. And so I was like, I'm just going to see, maybe this could be my next career. I was pretty confident I could probably do it. So I wrote what I wanted, the 3 goals on a piece of paper. And it was, I will be a full-time cooking content creator. I will have a cookbook. I will make as much money as I did doing this as I did my last career. My last career was lucrative. And I did. I wrote it 10 times a day for 3 or 4 weeks. I still have it. And I'm there. I did it. When I really decide I mean, it's probably why people like you and I are good at sales. No is not an option.
I wasn't good at sales. They actually moved me out of the new business team into being account management because I was much better at
But
it.
that's still sales, Frank.
I was happy to be an account manager. That is your personality, isn't it? You're going to get it. You're going to put your mind to it and you're going to make it happen. And I think whether or not you buy into that idea of manifestation or whether it's just mindset, I believe in manifestation, and I believe also that you can't manifest without actually action.
When you're in an unstructured environment where you're kind of creating something from nothing, it's almost like, when you look at like a company, like what are the goals of the company this year? What are the ethos of the company? And it's almost like those are the goals, and then you work backward. So what am I going to do every year, month, quarter, week, day to get to that goal?
You need to give yourself a very clear path to follow. Otherwise, it's really easy to kind of blur the lines a little bit and go, oh, maybe I'll try this, or maybe what about that? Or I won't bother today. But actually, you have to. Like, I found it myself. You have to get up and you have to get on with it, because if you don't, it won't happen and someone else will probably do it. You were obviously extremely clear in your mind what you wanted to do. It wasn't just a kind of whimsical idea or a hope. It was, you were really set on making that happen. All of those things go together to make successful people, I think.
Well, you have to remember at the beginning, I mean, if I go back and look at my early content, if you're not cringing at your early content, like Frank, you're going to be successful doing this podcast. If you, in a year from now, are not cringing at this interview, trust me, you are going to be cringing at it, because that is how it works. You start something, you're not very good at it, you're learning the ropes. I'm not that good at even being a podcast guest, but I do them so that I can one day become good. Like, I look at my early content and I'm like, ooh, it all gets you to where you're going. So like, I view it as like when I was an athlete, we would have to go back and watch our games to see the mistakes we made, what we did right, what we did wrong, and just study our film. And that was part of the whole process. I go back and I study my last 3 to 6 months of film, and I see what my followers like, what hit, what didn't, because there'll be some times where I'm like, oh, this is it. This is a viral video. And it's like, and I'm just like, oh, don't copy other people, because that's what worked for them. It's not a guarantee to work for you. Go back and study your own film. So create enough content that you have your own library to study. And that is what your followers react to and like. Believe me, if I were to go a year back, it would be mortifying. But I never erase anything. It's part of the whole process.
It was definitely like that for me with baking. When I started, I could bake some stuff. Now I look back over my early cakes and the early things we made at the kind of early days of the proof, my business. And hell, I can't believe I sold those to customers. Like, I can't believe I charged people. But it's a lovely way of having a kind of blueprint for seeing where you've come from and where you've gone, and then I guess helping you plan for the future. When you talk about it, it's quite technical actually. So you are quite technical about looking at what works, because I guess it is a business. If you want to do this full time, you need to approach this as a business.
It is a business. I'm only just exiting the startup phase. I've been in the startup phase for 2 years, call it. And that's how I viewed it. So in the startup phase of any business, you do everything, and you do everything until your company starts making money. As I get bigger, as my company becomes more successful and profitable, I can now outsource that. And that's how you get to the next level. If I were to stay a one-man band, I would never break beyond. So in order to get to the next level, which is what I want to do, because again, this is my career. I'm not just viewing this as I'm making content for fun. That's what has to happen.
Yeah. At what stage do you really start to look at this as becoming not just a career, but like you said, a business? Because for a lot of people, it takes a long time to kind of get to that point. I'm sure as you've gone over the years, you've had lots of brands reach out to you anyway, lots of people wanting to collaborate. But at what point did you kind of think, right, okay, I could probably say yes to everything, but I don't want to. I need to be really strategic with how we grow this thing. Where do you see yourself? Like, once the book comes out, are we going to move into TV?
This is what I always tell people. One post can change your life. People don't believe that, but I firmly believe it. I posted a handful of recipes over the course of maybe 3 weeks. And 3 of them went insanely viral. I'm talking like 25 million. One of the posts alone gained me 200,000 followers. Another
Wow.
post gained me like 95, another post 135. That 3 week period changed the trajectory of this whole thing. One of the things I did when I started is I looked at the people who are more successful than me, and there were a ton, even though maybe I don't enjoy their content or maybe I don't even enjoy them. It didn't matter. They were big and they were successful and they make a lot of money doing this. So what are they doing that I can translate to my world? And so I would listen to things like this. I'd listen to podcasts. I'd listen to TED Talks. I go down deep dives. What tidbits are they giving out that I can bring into my world on how to do this? One of them is that your Instagram, your social media is not the ending page. That's not where you want your follower to end and stay. Your social media is a place where you want them to go. For me, it was my newsletter, my Substack newsletter. I had just seen a TikTok on it, and like this lady was like, you know, if you're going to start a newsletter, Substack's where it's at. And I was like, okay. But that's when I realized like your social media is just here to sell whatever product maybe you are. Because if not, if you're just relying on brand deals every month, it's very cyclical. You're relying on other people, I guess, brands to make your money rather than having something that's going to come in and grow regardless. And it allowed me to be very, very authentic. So like even now, any product I use, it's only something that I would use.
It's a really effective way of building authenticity, continuing to build your brand, and for people to know that you're actually serious about cooking. It's not just something you do to get a TikTok like. This is something you're passionate about, you're good at, you care about the ingredients you use, you care about the equipment you use, you shout out about the stuff that is genuinely in your kitchen. And I think that just really, really builds that level of authenticity that people obviously look to you for.
Well, I want people to trust me. So if someone's like, why do you use Maldon salt, right? That's a finishing salt. And I'm like, it can be a finishing salt. I use it for everything but salting my pasta water. I get comments on it all the time. And then someone the other day is like, I bought the big bucket. I cooked with it. And they're like, I'll never question you again. It's just better. And that's the kind of thing that makes me really happy because I don't get paid by Maldon. I use that product because I love it. It's my favorite. I've been using it since I lived in London. And this is before Maldon even became a bigger brand. And I used to have every time my mother-in-law came to visit, make her bring 12 boxes over because it was so expensive here.
By the way, fun fact, I have just moved to Maldon in Essex.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my serious. God, that's amazing.
So
I didn't know that.
Yes, I live where they produce the salt, and I also, as a baker, attest if we were using salt, particularly salt to finish, in our products, it was always Maldon.
I love this. I can't believe that, Frankie. That is like, you have no idea. That excites me so much.
It always makes me smile when I see you shouting out Maldon, because we've got no links to this place. We just found a house we loved, and we needed to leave London. We needed to move and kind of start again after the proof closed. So yes, that is where we've ended up. You can tell that you're genuinely talking about products you genuinely love and use, and I think it does make you trustworthy, and I do think it's one of the points of difference between you and other content creators, because you don't feel like you're being sold to and you don't feel like it's bullshit. It feels really authentic. It probably leads me in quite nicely to talk about the downside of being big on social media, and I know you talk about this quite a bit when you do your Ask Me Anything series, which, by the way, you're also really honest in, which I love. It really is, it's just you.
I mean, Frank, you remember how brutally honest I
You are.
I was like, this is me in, like it or lump it, this is me. I've never been anything but brutally honest.
That is you to your core. You're honest, right? And I think you said the other day that someone accused you of being an arms dealer because of your last your last business. And it just made me laugh so much, because I was like, oh my God, like, people can say whatever they want on the internet, right? We know that. It blows my mind though. Speaking for myself, I would never go and comment anything offensive, mean, like anything. I just wouldn't comment on someone's socials. And I know you get a level of abuse, and I know you're very good at laughing it off, but it blows my mind that the bigger you get, the more hate you get, as well as the lovely stuff and the lovely people that subscribe to your Substack and people who follow and care about your journey. There are mental people out there. And how do you deal with that? Because obviously you are a mum and you've got a family and, you are tough. But at the same time, does it ever kind of get to you?
I think it affected me more in the beginning. And I was only on TikTok and I was like, oh. And then I think I'm with you. I would never comment negatively on someone's post. I can't imagine in what world I would ever do that. And I think that for the vast majority of the world, that's how they feel. If you don't like something, scroll on. That's the mindset that we sit in. And there's a lot of other people who sit in a very different mindset. Now, it could be whether maybe you're lonely. Maybe your only form of engagement is hate engagement on Instagram. I don't know what it is, but there's no one like sitting here in like a happy mindset who's throwing out troll comments on Instagram. So that's kind of just how I reframe it. It's not personal. They don't know me. They're a stranger on the internet. I'm a stranger on the internet. So it can't be personal. And then it comes back to like other people's opinion of me is none of my business. It is unfortunately part of this job. It's whether you shine light on that or give attention to it. I think the bigger you get and the more successful you get, you simply don't have time to indulge a troll.
Which is what they want, isn't it? They definitely want you to indulge them. I mean, the difficult thing is when other people start jumping to your defense and then it gets into a bit of an argument in the comments. And I imagine you have to completely take yourself out of that as well, because that probably is totally unmanageable.
Again, they're like, that's like a conversation I'm not even in. Like, I'm putting out cooking content. If we want to fight about whatever it is we've chosen to fight about, like, you guys knock yourself out. I think the longer you do this, the more immune. But then I look at some huge creators and I know they struggle with this. I see it. And I'm like, they comment that they struggle with this. It's an unfortunate side of this job.
Yeah, you've got to be quite tough, haven't you, to kind of weather that. And like you said, block it out because, who's got time?
I'm always amazed when there's so many really successful creators who are young in their early 20s. And I'm like, if I had to do this in my 20s and get ripped apart on the internet by strangers in my 20s, I would be a wreck. I would be a wreck. Doing this at 40, I'm 46. At 46, I have a very clear sense of who I am. At 23, oh my God, I would be medicated. I would be medicated. I would not have the life skills, the wisdom, the self-confidence, the sense of self, anything that I have now starting this in my mid-40s when I was young. I would have been a wreck.
Oh God, me too. Me too. Now, I don't really care what anyone says about me. Come for my kids, and that's a whole different ballgame. But me, no, I'm old enough to know myself and know what kind of person I am, what kind of friend I am, what kind of, But yeah, 20s, oh my God. I mean, I wouldn't have done it. I just wouldn't have been brave enough. Let's talk about the book, because it was on your list, your 3 things you wanted to achieve. You've done it. It's coming out this year. I mean, congratulations. That in itself is just so amazing. I can't wait to see it. How did that come about? Because aside from being obviously very good at what you do, to get a book deal in this day and age, in the world, the online world, like, it's hard. And there are so many people out there creating food content. So how did that happen?
My literary agent contacted me. Her daughter followed me on TikTok. And I remember getting this like random DM on TikTok, which I don't even look at my DMs anymore of there. So it's like, this was a long time ago. I remember thinking it was like a fake. And then I spoke with her and it wasn't. And I was like, she's amazing. And she's like, here's the idea, these dishes that you're only going to find in someone's home, not a restaurant. And I was like, yes, if I were to make a book, that's in my head what it would be like. How it works is you write this like 30-page around proposal, and then we shop it to the different people. I didn't sign with her, but I did tell her, like, listen, if I make a book, I'm going to do it with you, but I just don't want to sign anything. Because once you sign with a literary agent, then with that idea, then you have to make that book come to life with that person. So I was like, let's just wait until we see. At this point, editors are coming into my inbox and it's like, let's do this, let's do that. But it's a lot of these publishers where you have to like buy your first 2,000 copies. I know nothing about this world, so I'm simply forwarding her on everything. And she is telling me like, no, we don't want to do this. I come to learn there's the big 5 publishers, and you really want to go with one of them. That's who's going to give you an advance. You're not going to have to pay per se for your own book. Then some publishers from these big 5 contacted me, and it was like, have you thought about a book? It ended up being at the end where we had been in talks with this publisher, and it was kind of going slow. I do remember, and this is my publisher now, and I adore him. But I kind of like was like, should have got off the pot, you know? I was like, listen, no harm, no foul if you don't want to do this book, but so-and-so's knocking on the door, and I need to go with someone else. Because again, this is on the list. I am going to make this book, and it's going to be with you or it'll be someone else. I think a week later, it was done. I have never been on another side of working with someone who I didn't really adore. But I think going through this process, I'm realizing that like whoever you decide to work with as your publisher and who's going to be editing and stuff, it's so important, because I can't imagine doing this with someone I didn't like, because the process is so grueling, so difficult, so time consuming. If you were having to do this with someone who like you saw their name come up your phone and you're like, ugh, it would be so much harder. Whereas I see his name, I'm like, oh, that has been key in making this whole process enjoyable rather than just like drowning in the details. The final details have just gone out. I think the pre-order is going to be out by the end of April. And then the book is going to be out in November. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to hold it.
Yeah.
Because it's so personal. It's shot in my home. Every dish is mine. And it was shot around this kitchen, shot in the backyard. I can't wait to see it in print because I'm really, really proud of it. I've never worked on something so hard in my life.
That is, it sounds amazing. I can feel the excitement. Whilst you're very driven, you're also very intuitive as to who you can work with. I think that also kind of leans into knowing yourself at 46 years old, like knowing who you can and can't put your trust in and who you can be around. And I think that's another thing our kind of 20-something selves wouldn't have had a clue at, right? We just accepted what was kind of presented to us. You know, I love how you talk about the people that you're working with on your book and how you felt a synergy with their energy.
Well, and I think it goes with everything. So, you know, I didn't sign with a management company until early February. Most people sign with a management company a year ago. I would have people reach out to me and I would chat with them. And within like 30 seconds, I'm like, no. I haven't really heard of most of these companies. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, you're too small. It was just like, no, your energy, no. I remember they were like, when you interview someone, like a candidate or a person to hire, if you know that they're not it, get out of it immediately, because time is my most valuable resource at this stage where I'm at. And I don't have a half an hour to chit chat with someone who I know I'm not going to work with. I noticed that the president of one of the agencies I wanted to work with, she follows me, but like, I wonder why they never reached out. I slid into her DMs and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for management. I may not be a fit for you guys at all. I just thought it was worth reaching out. Again, like this takes me back to Commerce Partners, Frankie, because that was my intro. I'd cold call and be like, hi, it's Corre Myer calling from Commerce Partners. I have X, Y, and Z. I just thought it'd be worth having a conversation with you. I'm not sure if you're looking. And I still use that. That is my soft intro in. That was it. I signed with them. They were like, she was like, yes, we're interested. And then when I spoke to my now manager, it was like this. Like, I'm like, that's the energy I need. I am like, I need that back. I need to know, like, you are sharp. You're on it. You know where I'm going. You know what I want to do. My ambition does not seem crazy to you. It is absolutely on point. If not, let's go bigger. And that was the energy I was looking for. And when I found it, I was like, done, sign you.
It just shows you know yourself. And that in itself is such a powerful thing, because you spend years, I speaking for myself, I spent years and years and years, particularly before having kids, where I literally went with the flow. I said yes to everything. I didn't have a clue who I was. And now where I sit, I'm like, yeah, I know what I want. I know who I am. And I think you've just explained that perfectly. Like, if the energy doesn't fit, we're not going to do this. And it's okay to not sit there for the hour that you'd assigned for that meeting. It's okay to get out, because like, why waste each other's time? And I don't know, I think that's the sort of thing we should talk about more, because still, particularly women, we'll sit there the whole time and we'll be afraid to say, actually, this isn't for me.
Or like sometimes you just feel like part of it's like cultural too. You might feel like you need to be more polite. It would be maybe rude.
Polite.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with if someone thinks I'm a little rude or a little brusque. Ultimately, I'm saving your time too, which is valuable. Again, you are going to find the person who is going to work with you, or you're going to find a managing company, you're going to find the book editor, you're going to find whoever.
Saying yes to what's right, what aligns with you properly, making sure the energy's right, instead of saying yes to the first thing that comes along. I think that's a really good lesson. When's it out? November?
November. I don't have the exact date, but I think it's going to be like second or third week in November. I don't know when it's coming out in the UK, but I'm very confident it will. I've already told my editor, I was like, I want to do some sort of event over there. I'm like, it would just feel weird if I didn't, because I love London. London was home for so long.
Oh my God, it'd be so good if you did like Saturday Morning Kitchen or some kind of promo like that. Can you imagine?
100%. I am, Frank, I'm putting it out there now. That's really where I learned about ingredients and eating seasonally and taking the best ingredients and doing very little. So many of my idols are all British. My favorite restaurants are there.
If you were to have 3 restaurants, only 3 that you could come to next time you're in London, what would they be? I think I know maybe one of them.
Okay, I'm gonna go to St. John, the Smithfield location. It's just British food done so well. It's so simple. Second, I'm gonna go to Trinity Clapham. I had lunch there last time. I'd love to try the dinner. Adam Byatt is probably my biggest food idol, and I got to meet him last time. Frank, I've never done this. I've never asked anyone ever for a photograph. I was so embarrassed. I'm turning beet red, and I'm just like, is the chef here? Could I meet him? Could I get a photo? I nearly died of embarrassment. I don't regret it. He is one of my cooking idols. And then the third, oh God, I'm trying to think. Because I'm trying to think if it's something I go that's like nostalgic. I might go to a place like the Ledbury and just really immerse myself into the fine dining experience. Or actually, no. I'm going to Kebab Kid on New Kings Road in Parsons Green. That's where I'm going. Yeah. I used to live around the corner. It is the best kebab in London. I probably ate it three nights a week on my way home from the tube stop. It's Kebab Kid. I'm going to Kebab Kid.
That's so funny. I remember you talking about Kebab Kid a lot.
Yeah.
Just had a random thought when we went to Chez Bruce for dinner once years ago.
I love Chez Bruce.
God, it was so incredible, isn't it?
I still go to Chez Bruce. Chez Bruce to me is one of those secrets that where the Michelin star chefs eat at Chez Bruce. There's something more intimate about the 1 Michelin star restaurants than there are when you get super fancy with the 2 and 3 stars.
Cheese trolley, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, the cheese trolley. I dream of it. I want to have a dinner party. I want to get one of those trolleys and wheel out my cheese trolley.
I could talk to you about so much, but let's just finish on the kind of insane highs of your social media following and the likes of Stanley Tucci and SJP following you and loving your stuff. I mean, I can't imagine when you started and you wrote those things down on your list and you kind of were manifesting this, that would even be a thing. I mean, SJP, I remember when she commented and we were all on our WhatsApp group like, oh my God, this is huge. You know, we grew up with Sex in the City. Like, 100%. That's a big deal. Like, how does that feel when that kind of pops up on your notifications?
It feels just wild. It's insane that like any person who is so famous or so big or so well respected or such part of like the cultural zeitgeist like Sarah Jessica Parker would even know who I am, let alone be like inclined to like send me a DM. I think anyone that gets to that level of fame is, I mean, most of them I think are so gracious. They do seem just such genuinely like good people. And I think that's probably why they've had success for so long. Of course, that's not for everyone, but the people who are super famous, I guess, who have commented or followed or sent me voice notes, there couldn't be more kind and really generous. Like Stanley Tucci making that video about the 3 people he likes to follow. That's such a generous thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
I was so touched. But I mean, think about that. How you're going to take your time and highlight 3 people that you don't know, you don't owe anything to. And both of them I followed, and I adore both of them. Like it's 2 of my favorite accounts to follow. So I really was like, wow, I'm in such good company. These 2 are really 2 of my favorites. It will never probably stop feeling like surreal that any like big or famous person knows who I am.
Well, we'll see what happens when you've been on Saturday Morning Kitchen. I can't wait to see that. I think I can so see it happening. I can just feel it. Just to finish, what would be your kind of one piece of advice to give to anyone, man or woman, who is thinking about trying something new, starting something different? Like, have you got a piece of advice for them?
The scariest, hardest part is starting. That's it. Putting that first piece of content out, putting that first podcast out, putting that first newsletter out. That's the hardest. Everything after that is less daunting. There's very few people who you look up to or I look up to as success stories who are where they started. It's no one. Everyone had a path to get there, and the path is not linear. It's not like that. It's like that. If the worst thing that happens is it doesn't work out, make that okay with yourself. Wherever you want to go, you're going to have to fail.
Yeah, I hear you on all of that. I think if I had allowed failure to break me, I certainly wouldn't be doing this now. And I know I spoke to you about a year ago, maybe longer, asking for advice on doing something content related, and you said exactly the same thing to me then. It's taken me a year, but I'm doing it, and you're right.
You're here, Frank.
Yeah, I'm here. You have to get comfortable.
Yeah.
With trying and being okay with failing, and I think that's amazing advice. It's been just a real pleasure chatting to you. I can't wait to see the book and to keep following you and just watching your growth continue, because it's going to, and hopefully there's going to be a TV show. Hopefully that's next. Write that on your list.
I will write that on. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Thanks for having me, Frankie.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to do that. I can't wait to see you soon the next time in town.
Thanks, Corey.
Bye.
See ya.